The Crawdad's claw loomed over the shimmering void of the star-laden trade route, its jagged silhouette a predatory contrast against the serene expanse. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of oil, ozone, and unrestrained bravado. Captain Gornak paced the bridge, his clawed feet clinking against the metal floor with every step. His crimson eyes scanned the latest scans projected on the holographic display. A smirk spread across his scarred face. Another ship, small and seemingly defenseless, was drifting into their trap. This one, Gornak said, jabbing a talon at the projection. Another soft-bellied merchant ripe for the taking. No registered escort. No listed weaponry. Vec, his lean, scale-plated second-in-command, adjusted his visor, poring over the data with his usual meticulousness. Odd, he muttered, his forked tongue flicking nervously. The manifest is unusually vague. Cargo marked as general supplies. No specific quantities or types. Perfect, Gornak barked, clapping Vec on the back with enough force to make him stagger. That means they're hiding something valuable. Humans are notorious for trying to cover their tracks. They'll learn the folly of that soon enough. Rekha, the youngest member of the crew, stood at the edge of the bridge, their fur bristling. They were new to this life, eager to prove themselves, but often uneasy when Gornak's overconfidence flared. Captain, Rekha ventured hesitantly, if humans are so sly, shouldn't we approach with more caution? Their reputation is exaggerated nonsense, Gornak interrupted with a growl, waving away the concern. Deathworlders are beasts who stumbled into the stars by chance. Their bark is worse than their bite, and their ships are no match for the Crawdad's claw. Rekha's ears flattened, but they said nothing further. Vec, ever the pragmatist, gave them a warning glance as he recalibrated the ship's systems for boarding operations. The target vessel, the SS Resolute, glided closer, its hull unremarkable save for the faint shimmer of outdated shielding technology. A simple freighter, nothing more. It was just another mark on a long list of plundered ships. As the Crawdad's claw maneuvered into position, the pirate crew sprang into action. Boarding craft were prepared, and weapons were checked for maximum lethality. Gornak's booming voice echoed through the corridors, rallying his crew with promises of riches and glory. Rekha found themselves in the armory, strapping on their gear and trying to quell the uneasy flutter in their chest. Something about this felt off. The human's reputation for ingenuity, for turning weakness into strength, gnawed at the edges of their confidence. But this wasn't the time to question orders. They gripped their plasma rifle tightly and joined the boarding party. The Crawdad's claw latched onto the freighter with a metallic screech, its boarding clamps biting into the Resolute S-hull. A hiss of pressurized air signaled the seal as the pirates breached the target ship. Gornak led the charge, his hulking frame and dual plasma blades making him an imposing figure. Behind him, Vec stayed close, his analytical eyes scanning every detail of the freighter's interior. The corridors were dimly lit, the air heavy with the stale scent of recycled oxygen. The silence was unnerving. Strange, Vec muttered, glancing at his scanner. No signs of life near the breach point. Either they're hiding or they're cowering, Gornak interjected, his voice full of disdain. Humans always hide when faced with superior force. Spread out. Find the cargo hold. The pirates split into groups, their boots clanging against the metal floor. Rekha's group took the left corridor, where the faint hum of machinery grew louder with each step. The shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally long, and Rekha's grip tightened on their rifle. In the heart of the ship, Gornak led his team to what appeared to be the main control room. The door slid open with a reluctant hiss, revealing a sparse but functional space. Monitors flickered with static, and a half-eaten meal sat abandoned on a console. See? Just as I said, Gornak declared. They fled at the first sign of trouble. Cowards. Vec approached the consoles, tapping into the ship's systems. His scaled fingers flew across the interface, bypassing security measures with practiced ease. Captain, I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary in their logs. But there's an encrypted section that might contain. A deafening clang reverberated through the ship, cutting him off. Gornak spun around, his plasma blades igniting with a low hum. What was that? The comms crackled to life. Captain, a panicked voice came through. The transmission was abruptly cut off, replaced by static. Gornak's jaw tightened. Report, damn it. Another clang, closer this time. The sound of metal groaning under pressure echoed through the ship, followed by the sharp crackle of electricity. Rekha's team, meanwhile, had reached a cargo bay. It was vast, the walls lined with containers stacked high, but it was too quiet. No crew, no visible signs of cargo transfer in progress. The uneasy silence was shattered when one of their team stepped forward and triggered a pressure plate hidden beneath the floor. A series of automated sentry guns descended from the ceiling, their barrels glowing as they powered up. Ambush! Rekha yelled, diving for cover as the first volley of plasma fire erupted. The pirates scattered, their shouts mingling with the sharp hiss of energy rounds. Rekha returned fire, but the sentries were fast, adapting their aim with unsettling precision. Back in the control room, Vec cursed under his breath as the consoles flickered ominously. This isn't right, Captain. These systems are not what they seem. The ship's running on heavily modified tech. Human ingenuity. Gornak snarled, slamming his fist against the nearest console. Enough excuses. Shut those defenses down now. I'm trying. Vec shot back, his usual composure slipping as he worked frantically. The control room's monitors abruptly shifted, displaying a single image. The Earth, its blue and green surface serene yet imposing. A text overlay in bold letters read, "Asterisk, you should have left when you had the chance." Asterisk. Gornak growled, his rage building. They're toying with us. In the cargo bay, Rekha's team managed to disable the sentries, but not without casualties. Their fur was matted with sweat, and their nerves were frayed. As they regrouped, they noticed a door at the far end of the bay slide open, revealing a shadowy figure standing silently in the doorway. The figure stepped forward, their human features partially obscured by a tactical visor. They carried no weapon that Rekha could see, but their presence was unnervingly calm. "You should leave," the human said, their voice even and low. "This ship doesn't list its weapons because it doesn't need to." Rekha froze, every instinct screaming that this was no ordinary merchant. Gornak's voice crackled through their comm, barking orders to secure the cargo at all costs. Rekha hesitated, their grip tightening on their rifle as the human took another step forward. The stillness shattered as the figure in the cargo bay lunged, moving with a speed that defied Rekha's instincts. The human closed the distance in an instant, disarming the nearest pirate with a single, fluid motion. A weaponless human might have seemed vulnerable, but the brutal efficiency with which they wielded a crowbar proved otherwise. Rekha reacted, firing a wild shot that scorched the wall behind the figure. "Fall back!" they shouted, scrambling for cover. The pirates hesitated, fear and confusion fracturing their cohesion. The human didn't hesitate. With a sharp pivot, they drove the crowbar into a control panel, and the bay doors groaned ominously. An alarm wailed as the outer doors began to shift, the edges glowing red with heat. The pirates stumbled, panicked, as they realized the human wasn't just fighting them. They were toying with the environment itself. Rekha felt their stomach churn as gravity wavered, the artificial systems destabilized by whatever the human had triggered. They managed to retreat into the corridor just as the doors snapped shut behind them, sealing their team off from the cargo bay and its unpredictable adversary. Meanwhile, in the control room, Captain Gornak was in no mood for setbacks. The text on the monitors disappeared, replaced by garbled feeds of the ship's interior. They flickered between views of disoriented pirates and sudden bursts of violence. Automated defenses springing to life, traps concealed within mundane fixtures. Gornak slammed his fist against the console, baring his teeth in frustration. "Vec," he growled, "why am I watching my crew get outsmarted by a bunch of soft-skinned scavengers? Shut these systems down now." Vec worked furiously, beads of condensation forming on his reptilian brow. "This is no ordinary freighter, Captain. The entire ship's infrastructure has been weaponized, automated traps, environmental control overrides. I can't isolate the systems fast enough. They're layered, then burn through the layers. Gornak roared, his blades flaring to life as he stormed to the nearest doorway. If the ship wants to fight, we'll fight it hand-to-hand. Rally the crew. We'll take this death trap apart piece by piece. Vec hesitated, his clawed fingers hovering over the console. Captain, I must insist. Enough! Gornak's voice thundered. Follow my orders, or you'll join the cargo we're here to claim. In the corridors, Rekha's group limped through the flickering lights, their numbers dwindled. Every step was a gamble. The floor panels occasionally jolted with electricity, and faint hissing sounds hinted at pressure leaks in the walls. Rekha's ears twitched as a faint laugh echoed through the hallway, sending a shiver down their spine. This isn't right, one of the remaining pirates muttered. They're not fighting us, they're hunting us. Before Rekha could respond, a section of the ceiling collapsed, releasing a burst of steam and debris. The team scattered, narrowly avoiding the falling wreckage. In the chaos, the human appeared again, their silhouette backlit by a strobing emergency light. This time, they held a length of pipe like a staff, the improvised weapon glinting ominously. Rekha's instincts screamed to fire, but the human spoke first, their voice steady yet laced with iron. You're trespassing. This ship has no mercy for thieves. The word struck deeper than any physical blow. The pirates had faced resistance before, guards, automated drones, even rival crews, but this was something else entirely. It wasn't just the humans' combat skill or the traps. It was the way they moved, the deliberate precision of someone who knew exactly how to make an enemy feel powerless. Rekha raised their rifle, trembling slightly. We're here for the cargo. Stand down, and no one has to die. The human tilted their head, almost amused. That's where you're mistaken. Before Rekha could react, the human lashed out, knocking the rifle from their hands. A brutal melee ensued, the confined space amplifying every clash of metal against metal. Rekha fought desperately, their instincts and training keeping them alive, but it was clear the human had the upper hand. Elsewhere, Gornak led a group of pirates deeper into the ship, cutting through obstacles with brute force. They stumbled upon what appeared to be a secondary control node, its panels glowing faintly in the dim light. Gornak gestured for Vec, who had begrudgingly followed, to inspect it. This might be the core of their traps, Gornak said, his voice a low growl. Disable it, and we take the upper hand. Vec examined the panel, his claws tapping against its surface. It's encrypted. Give me time. Time is a luxury we don't have. Gornak snapped, but he held his position, his eyes scanning the shadows. The air here felt heavy, charged with an almost tangible sense of dread. As Vec worked, the faint sound of footsteps echoed from the corridor they had just entered. Gornak raised a hand to silence the group, his blades humming as he activated them. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice, calm and unyielding, called out from the darkness. You shouldn't have come here. The humans stepped into view, their visor reflecting the faint glow of the control node. Gornak snarled, stepping forward. You think you can intimidate me, little Deathworlder? I've seen battlefields that would make your bones crumble. The human didn't flinch, and yet you walked straight into this one. Without warning, the control node's lights flared, and a deep rumble coursed through the ship. Panels along the walls slid open, revealing an array of compact drones armed with plasma cutters. The pirates opened fire, but the drones moved in coordinated patterns, their small size making them difficult targets. Gornak roared, slicing through a drone with his blades. Vec, shut it down, or we're done here. I'm trying. Vec shouted, his claws flying across the panel as sparks erupted around him. Rekha, separated from their team, staggered into a nearby maintenance corridor, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Blood dripped from a shallow wound on their arm, the result of their brief clash with the human. They had barely escaped with their life. Ahead of them, the corridor forked, one path leading to the faint sound of voices, pirates regrouping. Rekha hesitated, glancing back the way they had come. For the first time, they felt a pang of doubt that went beyond fear. This wasn't a battle. It was a message, one delivered with brutal clarity. The ship wasn't defenseless. It was alive, and every move they made only fed its merciless design. The ship's heartbeat had become a roar. Deep, resonant vibrations pulsed through the corridors of the SS Resolute, each one driving home the inescapable truth. The freighter was not merely a vessel, but a carefully constructed death trap. The pirates were no longer predators. They were prey, scattered and scrambling within its labyrinthine confines. Rekha stumbled into a dimly lit storage bay, panting and clutching their injured arm. Their pulse pounded in their ears as they tried to make sense of what had gone wrong. The humans' words lingered, a cold echo in their mind. This ship doesn't list its weapons because it doesn't need to. They weren't just outnumbered. They were outclassed. Footsteps echoed down the corridor behind them. Rekha tensed, forcing their breath into shallow, silent gasps. They pressed against the wall, weapon raised, but the sound didn't belong to the other pirates. It was deliberate, measured, a hunter closing in on their cornered prey. The humans stepped into the bay, their visor catching the pale light. They stopped a few meters away, their stance relaxed yet coiled with potential energy. "Still running?" they asked, tilting their heads slightly. "I'll fight if I have to," Rekha said, voice trembling. The human gave a faint smile, though it was devoid of malice. "No, you won't. You know how this ends." Rekha's grip on their weapon faltered. They wanted to deny it, to defy this unrelenting force standing before them. But their resolve was brittle. The air between them was taut with unspoken truths, each second stretching into a silent eternity. In the depths of the ship, Captain Gornak was faring no better. The drones had pushed his group to the brink. Vec had finally disabled the control node, but it was only a temporary reprieve. The ship had adapted, rerouting its systems to continue its assault. Gornak's patience, already razor-thin, snapped as another drone strafed their position. "This isn't war, it's mockery," he roared, cleaving the drone in two with a savage strike. Vec crouched behind the remnants of the console, his claws tapping furiously at a portable interface. "Captain, this is far beyond standard human engineering. The ship's AI is, well, it's behaving almost like." "I don't care what it's behaving like," Gornak interrupted, pointing his blade at Vec. "Find a cargo. Find a crew. In this?" Before Vec could respond, the wall panels slid open, revealing an array of high-pressure hoses. They unleashed torrents of scalding steam, forcing the pirates to retreat. Gornak shielded his face with an arm, snarling. "Cowards and their tricks. Is there no end to this madness?" There was no answer, only the hiss of escaping steam and the faint hum of unseen systems reconfiguring. Back in the storage bay, Rekha's silence stretched thin. The humans stepped closer, their movements slow and deliberate. "You're not like the others," they said. Rekha blinked, unsure whether it was a statement or a taunt. "What does that mean?" "It means you're still alive because you're hesitating," the human replied. They stopped just out of reach, their voice softening. "I've seen enough of your kind to know the difference. The ones who charge ahead, they don't last. But you think. You know when you're beaten." Rekha's chest tightened. They wanted to argue, to reject the human's assessment. But something about the calm in their voice stripped away any facade of defiance. "What do you want from me?" The human lowered their improvised weapon, the faintest gesture of trust. "I want you to leave. Tell your captain to turn this ship around before it's too late. You've seen what this place can do. I don't want to waste any more lives." For a moment, Rekha hesitated. The words didn't sound like an empty threat. They carried a weight, a sincerity that Rekha couldn't ignore. Slowly, they nodded, lowering their weapon. The human stepped aside, gesturing toward the corridor. "Go, and if you're smart, don't come back." Rekha didn't need to be told twice. They slipped past the human, their steps quick but cautious. For the first time, they felt something other than fear. Relief, mingled with a glimmer of hope that maybe they could survive this nightmare. In the bowels of the ship, Gornak's rage had reached a fever pitch. His group was down to a handful of battered, weary pirates, and even Vec's usual precision had given way to a frantic edge. The captain refused to retreat, his pride blinding him to the reality of their situation. "We'll take the bridge," he growled, his voice ragged. "If we control the ship, we control its weapons." "Captain, we should reconsider," Vec began, but the look in Gornak's eyes silenced him. The trek to the bridge was fraught with peril. Traps sprang from the walls and floor. Drones harried their progress, and the ship itself seemed to shift, forcing them into dead ends and narrow corridors. By the time they reached the reinforced doors of the bridge, they were barely holding themselves together. Gornak charged the doors with a snarl, his blades sparking as they cut into the metal. The other pirates provided cover, but their movements were sluggish, their morale eroded. The doors gave way, and Gornak stormed inside, expecting to find a cowering crew. Instead, the bridge was empty, its systems eerily quiet. A single chair faced the main viewport, its back turned to the intruders. Gornak approached cautiously, his blades at the ready. "Show yourself," he barked. The chair swiveled, revealing not a person, but a small console mounted on an armrest. A screen lit up, displaying a simple message. Asterisk, "You've made it this far." Impressive. But this is where it ends. Asterisk. Before Gornak could react, the floor beneath him rumbled. Panels slid aside, and a swarm of drones emerged, their weapons primed. The remaining pirates scattered, their cries of panic echoing through the bridge. Vec, clutching his side where a drone had grazed him earlier, glanced at the console. "Captain, we have to retreat. This isn't salvageable." "Never!" Gornak roared, striking down a drone with feral intensity. But even he knew it was futile. The ship's systems whirred, and the drones paused momentarily. The screen updated. Asterisk, "You have one chance to leave. Take it or face annihilation." Asterisk. Gornak's pride clashed with his dwindling survival instincts. Finally, he snarled and turned toward the exit. "Fall back! To the claw!" The retreat was chaotic. The ship seemed to mock their every step, opening and closing paths at random, herding them toward the docking bay. By the time they reached their ship, their numbers had been reduced to a pitiful handful. As the Krodak's claw detached from the Resolute, Gornak slumped into his chair, his rage replaced by a hollow silence. The freighter disappeared into the void, its secrets intact. On board, the humans stood in the shadows, watching the pirate ship retreat. They exhaled slowly, their expression unreadable. Another victory, but the scars of this battle would linger. The Resolute was safe for now,